Our second speaker this morning is Glenn Briggs. Glenn, I'll get you to come here. Oh, yeah, that's all right. Glenn's a tech guru for all your tech needs.
Wow, okay.
Passionate about using technology to solve those real-world problems, developing user-friendly tools for agriculture. Now, look, you might notice that drought resilience isn't the only theme running through today's program. Glenn, I'd like to know from you your favourite holiday destination. Do you have one?
Yeah, as a supportive husband and father of four, it's wherever my wife decides that we want to go.
Good answer.
But no, look, anywhere that's with my family and generally by the water to keep the kids entertained. If they're entertained, it's a lot more entertaining for me, I can assure you. But yeah, camping somewhere by the beach or by a river or something like that's generally where we land, Tara.
Wonderful. Well, I'll let you take it away. Tell us a little bit about your project and who you work with. Clickers there you go, who you work for and work with in this project, and take it away.
Thanks very much, Tara. Thanks all for having me along today. It's quite an exciting opportunity to speak to you all and have a bit of a yak around what we've been doing and how we've been achieving that. So I'm here representing Agribusinesses. We were born of the Farm & Co group, for those in Western Australia who understand what the Farm & Co management consultancy group does. We're basically a software and data arm that's been born of that organisation. And really there's a lot of synergies, and if linking voices, insights and actions isn't trademarked, geez, I'd like to take that. But effectively what we like to do, or what we do, what we're about, is using data that's gathered from farming businesses. They sit on piles and piles of data, to use that to basically create opportunities for them to provide insight into their business and to generate opportunities for action. Actions in resilience, be that sustainability resilience, financial resilience, all the bits and pieces that make a business successful, and provide a strong base from which to grow. So it's really broken up into three components at the moment, being our benchmarking, which is where we started, which is gathering voluminous amounts of data from a farm, can be anywhere between 10 to 100,000 individual data points, putting that in a big washing machine that we call a benchmarking engine, and producing invaluable insights so that you can understand what best practice looks like, where you're sitting along that best practice change, and what you can do, what actions you can take to either validate what you're doing or create opportunities to do things differently to provide better outcomes moving forward. That gave birth to our second sort of solution there, Cash Peak, which is a budget and cash flow forecasting tool. And what I'm here to talk to you about primarily today is the third little icon along the line there, which we developed with the support of the Drought Hub and GGA in our farms emission solution. What we're looking to do is provide an opportunity for farmers to get ahead of the curve in terms of their greenhouse gas emissions and the ability to manage those, and to understand where they're coming from, and basically get a number. It will become evident as to why that number is important and why they'll need that number moving forward. But effectively, what it means is, Australia's signed up to the Paris Accord, which effectively means that by 2030 we have to have a 43% reduction on our greenhouse gas emissions from 2005 levels. So we have to work hard to reduce the emissions of agriculture that are generated in day-to-day business. And that moves across to 2050 when every business should be net zero. So they should be able to offset, sequester, generate reductions so that they are net zero in their operations by 2050. And now one of our other mantras, I guess, is you can only move what you can measure. So while you're measuring things, that's good, but you need to move and advance from those sort of situations to provide a better outcome. So in Australia, there's three documented or three approved greenhouse gas emission calculation methodologies, being the University of Melbourne's GAF suite of products, which has developed a greenhouse accounting framework, developed for multiple agricultural segments. I think there's 13 or 15, between 13 and 15, I can't remember, they change. Individual tools, which have been accredited by the Melbourne University for specific verticals within agriculture. There's FarmPrint, which is CSIRO-led, and then the Cool Farms tool, which is a conglomeration of Northern Hemisphere giant companies, which they've sort of retrofitted to fit the Southern Hemisphere climate. So they're the three that are accredited in the market. You can use any one of those, and each one of those provides its own outcome. In terms of our project, what we did, we assessed each of these three methodologies, spent a lot of time with our historic data understanding the nuances and the differences between each of the tools. And we basically decided that the Melbourne University GAF tool provided the best opportunity for us to provide consistent approach and calculation. And that was done on a few levels in terms of, we had direct line of sight to the science behind that. So we had a really strong relationship with Professor Eckhart, who runs the program there. It was the most frequently updated, and it was built for our jurisdiction as well. So baseline carbon audit, as I mentioned, there's three tools. Anyone can download each one of those tools and they can run a carbon audit on their business. And what they'll get is something that remarkably resembles this here. Lots of jumbles, lots of letters, lots of scientific formulas there. But that's enough, and that will suffice in terms of a greenhouse gas audit for your business. So there's a tick. You've been able to do that. You can understand what your emissions are. It doesn't do anything really apart from break up where the emission sources are and the gas type, which is great, and it's beneficial. And pretty soon, banks, insurance organisations and a lot of the bigger buyers will be tapping growers for this information as they become mandatory greenhouse gas emission reporters in the very near future. What we want to do is provide a so what. So as I said, there's three tools. Anyone can download any one of those tools, input their information and get their greenhouse gas emissions. That's not difficult. Where we see the real benefit of what we've been able to develop with the support of the Drought Hub is providing the so what, or the insights and actions, if we refer to our points up here. So if you have a look at this chart here for a minute, just ignore the small green bars there. But what we've been able to do through using our benchmarking and our historical data is go beyond the number and provide a bit of a so what. So if we're looking at the vertical blue bars there, that's giving us the amount of CO2 emissions on a per hectare basis. So if we look at high, medium and low rainfall zone and we just ignore the green bars there, you'd think, gee whiz, look at that. That's not a great outcome in terms of tonnes of CO2 produced on a per hectare basis. But when we look and we understand the source of the numbers and we understand what goes into them and what the production or the results of those numbers are, you can see here that it's actually providing a better tonnes per yield. So it's being able to use the data to tell a story beyond the number. If looking at the hectares, it's ugly, but when you look at the amount of tonnes produced, it's actually quite a bit. It's a better story, and it's a better insight in terms of what happens and what goes in behind those numbers. So it's really critical, we feel, that you do go deep on the numbers. You do get a solid understanding of what's happening, why it's happening, and what are some of the insights. Again, sorry, really small numbers there, but through the portal that we've developed, we can provide instantaneous benchmarking. So historically, benchmarking is putting everything into a big pot, and sometime at the end of the season, so usually anywhere between May and August, we get the historical information from the previous season, put it out in a hard copy book. We're not the only ones who do it. There's many others who do this as well, but the opportunity is lost. The moment's lost because you're already doing work for the next season, but you haven't been able to look backwards in terms of understanding where you're from. So what we've developed is a way of capturing this information more thoroughly, more quickly, more accurately, and then putting it in that big benchmarking pot a lot sooner and providing instantaneous feedbacks. So we can provide insights and actions to data in almost real time now. So as you can see here, we've got a bit of an average line here. And we can see that this business here is represented by the yellow star, which then gives them an opportunity to understand where they are against their peers and move that through a whole series of charts, benchmarks, measures, comparisons to understand where practice difference is in terms of their carbon emissions and what they can potentially do that their peers are either not doing or are doing to make a change to their outputs and to generate, I guess, a more carbon efficient business. Timing and data. So look, it's not an easy task. I won't lie to you and say that we've created the panacea of all carbon tools and you can just magically click a finger and it's going to do your calculations for you. It does take time. There is a requirement, but what we've been able to do is firstly meld two calculators into one. So typically where there's grain producers, there's also livestock producers. So rather than entering your data in two separate tools and trying to collide those two things at the end, we capture the data once, We've embedded 2 tools in the back end. So from one set of data entry, you can generate your emissions for your sheep and beef business as well as your grain business in a really simple format. So it's quick and easy. We've built it so that you can use the tool as you're making purchases for chemicals or feed or those sort of things, and the fertiliser. So as you're generating inputs into your business to produce your exports or your outputs, you can actually keep a running total. So it becomes a lot less onerous to sift through a big pile of invoices and understand how much I bought, when I bought it, what I bought it for. So it's allowing the producers just to keep a good hand on the tiller in terms of their data and producing something that's really solid towards the end of it. What are the numbers we require? So production, rainfall and the inputs effectively. So that's common against all the calculators, but if you grab in your production information, so that's how much you produced, on what country you produced it from, how much rain you used to produce it or how much rain you were gifted to use to produce that, and then your inputs, fertiliser, chemical, fuel and electricity. They're the basic fundamentals which will allow you to run a greenhouse gas emission. But because we have that history and legacy of benchmarking, it provides so much more than that. Instantaneous audit and benchmarking, I touched on that before, but that's really just about providing the opportunity to generate insights and actions from data in real time. So no more waiting until May, June, July, August, whenever the publications are done and back from the printer and you've got an almanac of data sitting on your coffee table which you won't use. This will be produced in real time so that you can put your numbers in, finish a year, have a look how you compared, and then start to look and understand what the insights you can drive from that and what the practice change you can deliver to generate a lower emitting business next year. And importantly, I guess, Aglytica, we are 100% Australian owned, hosted and developed and headquartered. So we don't offshore any of our work at all, which makes it bloody expensive to do. But we do it here. It's all done in an office, well, not far that way, which is really good because it gives me line of sight to the developers, so I can kick chairs if things aren't working. I can throw pens if things aren't really working. But everything's headquartered here, it's developed here, it's hosted here, which is really, really critical. It's what we stand for, and not every tool in the market's doing that. A lot of this work's offshore. So we're pretty proud of that fact. As I said, it does make it expensive, but it makes it ours, and we're pretty happy and proud of that fact. So look, actions and insights is what we're all about. It's what today's all about. And I think if there's an opportunity for me to impart any one piece of information is we need to get growers ahead of the curve on this. It will come and hit them in the face like a big tsunami really soon because those first level mandatory reporters are going to be tapping growers for this information really soon. That's banks, insurance companies, energy providers and some of the big purchasers of our commodities moving forward. I know in the horticulture space there's a lot of pressure on those horticulture people to start delivering their numbers into the big retailers at the moment. It's going to come really, really quickly. So if we can get growers ahead of the curve using simple tools, be it my tool or someone else's, it's just critical that we understand that, we get them on that journey, on that pathway, and move them forward in that direction. Look, that's about me done. I did put in any questions, but I'm sure Tara will get up and run us through that situation there. Look, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great opportunity to get up and have a chat to you all, and I will be around if there's any questions outside of the next minute or two. Thanks, Tara.